G'day cocktail lovers. If you've ever wondered why I use green screens most of the time, it's because I don't have much space to shoot and I do not have a photogenic kitchen, and I didn't feel like tidying it up just for a video and then have the entire house do kitchen stuff in it again and be back to square one. So you get what you get, essentially. Anyway, I come to you today. This is possibly my most important barrel experiment for a while. I have a new barrel, as in I just got it, and I have so far, I soaked it in water so the staves expanded and it stopped any leaks, and it currently has some port in it to season the wood, to put a bit of flavour in. This is one of my old barrels. I bought this more than 6 months ago. Working on the theory that everyone says that barrels lose their ability to impart flavour after a few uses, like after about 6 months. So I'm going to make the same cocktail, split it between the two, and decant and taste it in 3 or 4 weeks. And that will answer the rather important question for me: do I have to replace my barrels every 6 months or so? I'm keeping this simple and classic. It's going to be a whiskey old fashioned. I'm going to make about 2 litres of whiskey old fashioned. The barrels each hold a bit more than a litre, and it's going to be about half Maker's Mark because I got a 1 litre bottle of Maker's Mark at a good price, and Maker's Mark is a pretty reasonable bourbon. The other half is going to be a blend of things I have. There's a tiny bit of Irish whiskey, Jameson's Stout Edition, that's going to go in. This is actually my whiskey that I aged New Make Spirit or Moonshine in the barrels to get something that looked and honestly tasted like whiskey. This is actually pretty good. It's also higher proof, so it's going to give the cocktail a bit more kick. I'm going to put that in as well. And any leftover space is going to be filled by this twofold from local distillery Starwood. Really nice light whiskey, should play well with the others. And essentially that's all going into one big container, and then I pour half into each of the barrels. Of course, that isn't everything that goes into an old fashioned. I'm also putting in about 250 mils of sugar syrup and a whole lot of bitters. I'm going to put in about 20 dashes of Angostura and 20 dashes of orange bitters. My other half, who's in the scientific world, assures me this is a randomized controlled trial, so it's very scientific. 3 samples I am going to have and see which one I prefer, and also if I can tell which is which. One aged in the older barrel that's had a bunch of cocktails aged in it. One aged in the new barrel that was just been primed and ready for use, and one that was not aged in a barrel at all. And it's all from the same blend, so it should be possible to tell the difference without any sort of false things of, oh, I got measures wrong. I took them all from the same big batch. 4 weeks later, I'm going to taste them, and my assistant shall hand them to me, so it's blind to me. I don't know which is which as I taste them. Let's go. You'll notice I went the whole way with an orange garnish and a cherry. A little stir, and oh, smell that old-fashioned goodness. Taste test time. That's a good old-fashioned, but I need to see if I can tell which is which. Ready to taste old-fashioned number 2. I'm never going to get this right. I'm just kind of, oh man, it's a really nice old-fashioned though. Third and final old-fashioned. Oh man, it's just a really good old-fashioned, and no idea which is which. I'm going to do really quick side by side, and those are the first one and the third one. Now I'm going to try the third one and the second one, because I think I know what the third one is. God, it's just a good old fashioned. Is the third one the one that wasn't in a barrel?
Yes.
Woo! Okay. Was the first one from the new barrel?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Here's the thing, I could tell the difference. It's subtle though. I'll try and articulate it. It is that the one in the new barrel has picked up the oak more. It's that straightforward. The oakiness is depleted the more you use the barrel. But because I've been using it to age cocktails, the flavour of the cocktails stay in there. So each thing I've put in there takes on a bit more. Like for instance, in the old barrels, one of them's got port in it at the moment, and I've had to taste that. It's fantastic. The other one has vodka, and so I've now got a flavoured vodka. It tastes like a cocktail straight out of the barrel, just the vodka has absorbed the flavours that are in there. So I'm going to go hard and say I don't think for cocktails you have to stick to that rule hard and fast of replacing barrel, because the one from the old barrel is noticeably different to one that's not aged. The new one, the oak definitely comes through, more of that flavour comes through. So if you were using the barrels to barrel age a spirit to get the oaky quality, you would definitely not want to keep the barrels forever. But for cocktails, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say it's not as important, because it's about the flavours that it picks up and it's about the smoothing out, which still works. And if you think this is a lot of old fashions I have to drink now, I made a litre of each of the barrels one, so I have several litres of old fashions just at the ready now. Poor me, right? Don't you wish you knew where I lived? Okay, that just sounded wrong. Anyway, so experiment successful. I can tell the difference between an old fashioned that's not aged, one that's aged in one of the old barrels, and one that's aged in a new barrel. But I don't think that there's a massive difference, and I don't dislike the effect we get from the old barrels. So yay for the longevity of barrels. Science wins again, and I have multiple old fashions to drink. So I'll sign off. I hope to see you again another time. Until then, cheers.